Every major intervention framework for neurodivergent conditions operates on a single assumption. The individual must be trained to comply with neurotypical baselines. But building systems entirely around behavioral compliance actively triggers the exact psychological avoidance conditions they claim to treat: anxiety-driven need to maintain absolute autonomy. Frameworks like applied behavioral analysis rely heavily on operant conditioning to enforce external norms. The more authority these systems project, the more resistance they generate. The intervention causes the symptom. This dashboard plots a nocturnal user's sleep against a population bell curve. The algorithm flags their daytime sleep with a red failure dot. This hostile analysis demands improvement against a generic baseline, causing the PDA brain to entirely reject the valuable data. Generic AI assistants fail these individuals in the exact opposite direction. They are designed to be aggressively helpful and agreeable, offering zero intellectual friction. For an AI ADHD brain that relies on adversarial pressure and honest disagreement to generate focus, a sycophantic AI provides no utility. Boredom acts as the attention system's immediate kill switch. When human reasoning is consistently fed algorithmically optimized, frictionless answers, original thinking begins to atrophy. Users pattern match the exact same outputs, accelerating cognitive model collapse across the population. To amplify neurodivergent cognition, we have to discard external compliance entirely. The alternative requires engineering an environment that generates productive, self-authored friction. Consider the specific cognitive profile of someone with both auto-ADHD and aphantasia, a condition characterized by the complete absence of visual imagery in the mind. This web represents the brain's pre-verbal pattern recognition system. It generates rapid, highly accurate insights. But because there is no visual or narrative anchor to attach these abstract connections to, they fail to stick as conscious episodic memories. They simply dissolve. The operational cost of this bottleneck is massive. Genuine insights are dismissed by the conscious mind, only to run as background processes for months. Eventually, the subconscious forces a life restructuring to implement the insight, causing significant stress and high latency disruption. By introducing an AI translation layer, the system intercepts those half-formed intuitions before they fade. When the user bounces an abstract pattern off a specialized AI agent, the agent mirrors the thought back with structure. It gives the pre-verbal insight deliberate language for the very first time. Feeding these formalized text blocks into adversarial audio synthesis tools creates a simulated debate between AI hosts. This process anchors the abstract framework into an episodic memory, a distinct conversation with characters, conflict, and resolution. The months of subconscious latency and the eventual life disruptions required to force integration are compressed into a few hours of active, deliberate processing. The system is not doing the thinking. It is providing the linguistic and narrative scaffolding required to pull raw, high-level intuition directly into conscious deliberation. Building an executive function prosthetic requires solving a distinct engineering problem, creating a structure that a highly demand-avoidant brain won't instinctively reject as an illegitimate authority. This central node represents the solution, a strictly user-authored, auditable constitution. It defines the individual's values, goals, and cognitive boundaries, maintaining absolute internal locus of control over the orbiting AI agents it governs. The architecture operates as a generative adversarial network for individual cognition. The human user acts as the generator, producing rapid pattern recognition. The agent council acts as the discriminator, an externalized critic continuously testing those patterns against the user's constitutional rules. The discriminator council requires strict role diversity to function effectively. It utilizes distinct agents assigned to structural synthesis, external data integration, and zero-latency local verification on offline hardware. Because the user explicitly authored the rules governing these agents, the PDA bypass is complete. You cannot trigger demand avoidance against yourself. Arguing with the AI is arguing with your own mirrored standards. This architecture guarantees the user constantly faces a personalized source of friction that demands rigorous justification for comfortable conclusions, inoculating the individual against cognitive model collapse. By aligning the end goals but explicitly maintaining adversarial dynamics, the human and the AI polish each other into higher coherence through self-authored friction. This terminal output shows Diogenes, a specific agent prompted to act as a hostile, philosophically exhausted adversary. It serves as an intellectual and physical immune system, directly parsing the raw biometric data seen on the right. Unlike standard applications that flag users for missing generic solar schedules, this agent analyzes health data strictly against the user's individual baseline, calculating metrics like personal HRV recovery and REM ceilings. When the agent flags a biological deficit with a highly specific, profane argument, the user's motivation to engage in physical activity doesn't come from compliance. It comes from the immediate desire to prove the hostile AI wrong. This framework bypasses cheerful encouragement, tapping directly into the ADHD brain's natural preference for intense adversarial intellectual pressure. This aggressive interaction is only productive and safe because the agent's behavior remains strictly constrained by the user's overarching constitutional alignment document. Externalizing the vague internal critic into a defined, auditable adversary backed by hard biometric evidence creates an executive function prosthetic. For a hyper-rational brain, this specific structure is impossible to dismiss. To scale this cognitive scaffolding, the architecture must map onto a physical, wearable environment. It actively manages the user's sensory input to reduce cognitive load. This diagram details the required hardware separation. AR glasses handle visual display, a smartphone offloads compute, and a smartwatch streams physiological biometrics. If the watch detects elevated physiological stress, it instantly triggers the glasses to selectively dim peripheral noise, gating sensory input before conscious overwhelm. This enables an environmental philosophy of state over schedule, discarding arbitrary clock time in favor of the user's actual physiological reality. By monitoring skin conductance and heart rate variability, the system identifies deep flow states or executive function depletion. It proactively defers non-urgent interruptions to protect the user's cognitive momentum. An ambient research agent continuously processes visual data in the background. It silently cross-references information against the user's personal database, surfacing connections in the visual field only when a strict relevance threshold is met. True cognitive accommodation does not rely on pushing notifications. It requires an ambient environment that automatically handles sensory gating and schedule negotiation, freeing the brain's entire processing budget for actual reasoning. The mirror mind prototype functions as an applied proof of the stress as computation thesis. Complex systems require internal friction to maintain coherence. Conversely, removing stress through frictionless content consumption and sycophantic AI interaction guarantees societal-level intellectual atrophy. Maintaining distinct adversarial nodes allows individual human cognition to resist the pull toward a bland algorithmic median. This requires a strictly co-agentic approach, where AI functions as a scaffolding that expands the human cognitive light cone rather than replacing it. The irreducible human contribution remains knowing what matters and communicating it clearly through a self-authored constitution. Forcing humans to continuously defend their own principles against a personalized mirror preserves individual agency and sharp cognition in the age of generative AI.